Matt Reynolds with your Local 5 Sports instant reaction to the Packers draft pick. With the 13th pick of the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Packers select Iowa edge rusher Lukas Van Ness. And before we get to the who else they could have picked in this spot, let's talk about the player in and of himself. A redshirt sophomore at Iowa from Barrington, Illinois, right on the Illinois-Wisconsin border right there. Van Ness was certainly a traits guy. This is somebody that is an athletic freak. Runs a 4.58 second 40-yard dash, 6'5", right around 270 pounds, that prototype edge guy that the Packers love. This is a guy that could come in and be just an athletic freak, a super high ceiling. The problem is maybe a little bit of a low floor. He wasn't a starter for Iowa, even though Phil Parker's defense does rotate their edge guys quite a bit. The production probably isn't where you want it for an NFL draft pick, and certainly not a top 15 draft pick, but this was a traits pick over anything. And now for the flip side of the coin, who the Packers could have gone with. There were no wide receivers or tight ends taken off the board before that 13th overall pick. And there was a consensus top 10 pick available at a position they valued in the past, cornerback, with Christian Gonzalez at Oregon at 13. But the one every Packer fan seemed to want, Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State, the wide receiver who set one of the top marks in NCAA history for receiving yards and receptions, and certainly the top mark in Ohio State history in 2021 with 347 receiving yards in the Rose Bowl alone. For fans of college football, that would have been the sexy pick, if you will. But the Packers instead go with an edge rusher, and Goody, for every single draft, Brian Gutekunst has been the Packers GM. He's gone with a defensive player. The only exception, quarterback Jordan Love. So we'll have to wait till the second round, the third round, possibly beyond, to see if Love gets some help on that offensive side of the ball and some weapons. But bear in mind, there were only 5 players in that wide receiver or tight end room for the Packers that even saw snaps in the 2022 season. All right, we'll keep it locked on Local 5 tonight for full draft coverage coming up at 10 o'clock. For now, Matt Reynolds, Local 5 Sports. I'm Matt Reynolds with your Local 5 instant reaction to the Packers' second-round draft pick. With the 42nd overall pick of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Packers select Oregon State tight end Luke Musgrave, a long and lean receiving tight end out of the Pac-12. Musgrave is 6'6", 250 pounds, that long and lean frame, and he's a vertical threat. This is something the Packers need in the offense and certainly don't have with the current tight end profile after the departure of Robert Tonyan Jr. to the Chicago Bears. Josiah DeGuara and Tyler Davis are the only tight ends on the roster that even played a snap last year, and neither of those fit that receiving threat, that vertical threat that the Packers want within this offense. Now, if you're looking at the prospect profile for this individual, Musgrave is a guy that's regarded as the second best receiving tight end in this draft and has really the athletic ceiling the Packers are looking for with a guy that they added to their room. He is really fast, runs a 4.61 second, 40-yard dash, and he's someone who can get up the field, juke out safeties, really be that guy that gets to the second level, and he's acceptable as a blocker, someone the Packers want to be that kind of second level, the dual type of guy that does both for them within this offense. So the Packers add a pass-catching weapon for Jordan Love, and Musgrave certainly in line to be a definite contributor for playing time, a definite candidate for immediate playing time within this Packers offense. We'll have more on Pick 45 when it comes out. For now, at Lambeau Field, Matt Reynolds, Local 5 Sports. I'm Matt Reynolds with your Local 5 Sports instant analysis of the Packers draft pick. With the 50th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Michigan State wide receiver Jayden Reed. And before we profile the prospect, let's talk about how the Pack got here. They originally held pick number 45 before trading back to the Detroit Lions to pick number 48. They held pick number 48 until they traded back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, eventually settling on pick number 50 and then adding more skill position talent to this offense and more help for new quarterback Jordan Love. Jayden Reed was a 2021 All-Big Ten selection, first team, and was certainly a player that can jump out of the gym. He's the type of guy that can stretch defenses in a lot of different ways, does have that top-end speed, and Wisconsin Badger fans will remember, maybe not too fondly, that he ended up beating Wisconsin in the most brutal of ways, catching a ball on a jump ball in the corner of the end zone for a walk-off touchdown in double overtime. Now, his size Maybe not ideal for Green Bay, although he is a willing blocker. He's 5'11", 184 pounds, and had 636 receiving yards this past season. So his stock may have dropped from one of those top-flight wide receiver talents toward the second round, where the Packers ended up getting him right in the middle late portion of that round. He's certainly someone that slipped a little bit, but still a blue-chip prospect for this draft. He's got a broad jump of 10 feet 1 inch, a shuttle run of 4.29 seconds, and runs a 4.45 40-yard dash. So the speed is good, but it's the quickness that really jumps off the page. Reed is a guy who can, get out of his break really well, juke out some corners, but it's the physicality at the point of catch and the jumping ability that gives the Packers something that they may not have on this roster at this point. Christian Watson can stretch the field, is certainly a deep threat. Romeo Doubs, your possession receiver, and Jayden Reed, who can now play all three positions, is that type of guy who can be that third receiver, be that slot guy who can make a difference in this offense right away. So the Packers add more skill position talent for Jordan Love at pick number 50, and we'll be right back here to profile pick number 78 when it comes in the third round. For now, at Lambeau Field, Matt Reynolds, Local 5 Sports. I'm Matt Reynolds with your Local 5 Sports instant analysis of the Packers draft pick. With the 78th overall selection in the draft, picking in the third round, the Packers select South Dakota State tight end Tucker Kraft, their second tight end in 3 picks on day 2 of the NFL draft. Pass catchers galore, 2 tight ends and a wide receiver go to the Packers, and certainly weapons to surround new quarterback Jordan Love. Now, coming into this draft, experts said there were a big 6 of tight ends, one of the deepest classes of tight ends in recent memory, and while not a premium position, certainly a premium for the Packers after losing almost every tight end that saw action on the field this last season, with the exception of Josiah DeGuara and Tyler Davis. And they add Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, 2 pass catchers, but 2 very different players coming into this juncture. Kraft is more of a possession guy. He'll get you 7 to 10 yards, but he'll also be a run blocker. And coming out of FCS South Dakota State, some might question the competition there, but this guy is accomplished at the highest level. Just like Christian Watson last year, he won an FCS national championship his last year in college, and he was an FCS All-American first team in 2021, a third-team All-American in 2022, and definitely one of those guys that defense is focused on to try and keep that South Dakota State offense in check. Obviously, it didn't work, but here are the measurables on Kraft. He's an impressive player. He is 6'5", 254 pounds, and 65 receptions, 780 receiving yards in the 2021 season, and caught at least 2 passes in all 15 games. Now, a little bit more meager numbers in 22 because of an ankle injury. So maybe some concerns for the Pack taking 2 tight ends that are coming off injuries, but Kraft is the type of guy that adds a different profile to this tight end room and certainly adds depth that they didn't have there. And now the Pack have now an array of weapons between the running back room, the tight end room, and the wide receiver room that should help Jordan Love have a successful season in his debut year in 2023, the first new Packers Game 1 starter at quarterback in 15 years. So Tucker Kraft, your third round pick for the Packers, and we'll be back tomorrow at Lambeau to discuss the 4th through 7th round picks, where the Packers have almost double-digit selections as of now heading in to the final day of the 2023 draft. For now, at Lambeau Field, Matt Reynolds, Local 5 Sports. I'm Matt Reynolds with your Local 5 Sports analysis of the Packers draft. Day 3 is well underway, and the Packers nabbed 3 selections in rounds 4 and 5, taking a defensive lineman, a quarterback, and a wide receiver. But of course, the headline here is that QB position, a backup for Jordan Love, and the Packers grabbed Sean Clifford in round 5, the longtime starter for the Penn State Nittany Lions. And when I say longtime starter, I mean it. He's almost 25 years old, had 1,473 career dropbacks, 64% completion percentage this past year, 62% for his career, 7.8 yards per attempt, 82 touchdowns, 28 interceptions, and a whole lot of wins on his record. Now, why did the Packers grab this guy at this spot? Well, it's the most quarterbacks ever taken in the common draft era of the NFL draft, so he was the 11th quarterback off the board. And the Pack needed a backup for Jordan Love, but not someone who was a project. They needed someone who had a lot of career experience, and if they can't grab a veteran, an NFL veteran in free agency, they have a 25-year-old quarterback coming into the room that's played a lot of football and knows a thing or two about playing in big-time games. All right, elsewhere, the Packers grabbed a wide receiver, a different body type, Dontayvion Wicks out of Virginia. 6'2", 210 pounds. Maybe fits more of that Allen Lazard type that the Packers lost in free agency, with Lazard going to the Jets. And he's a guy who can go up and get it in traffic. Drops are a little bit of an issue, but certainly athletic and certainly a guy with a very high ceiling. And another weapon for Jordan Love, the second wide receiver in this draft, and fitting a very different profile than the second-round pick, 5'11" Jayden Reed out of Michigan State. The big one, the fourth-round pick, Auburn defensive lineman Colby Wooden. Sort of a tweener as far as size goes, but the Packers confirmed they will play him at defensive tackle. So an athletic, maybe a smaller size guy, but certainly an athletic, strong player right in the middle of that defensive line to get up the field and put some pressure on quarterbacks, put some pressure on the run game for those offenses, and a guy that the Packers needed with the offseason departures of both Jarran Reed and Dean Lowry in free agency. All right, round 6 is already underway for the NFL draft, and we'll be back after round 7 to talk about the Packers' 13 picks in this draft. But for now, at Lambeau Field, Matt Reynoldson, Local 5 Sports. I'm Matt Reynoldson with your Local 5 Sports analysis of the tail end of the Packers draft. The 6th and 7th rounds of the draft saw the green and gold take 6 selections, and we'll run through all of them to stay under that 2-minute and 20-second mark. Starting off in the 6th round, Packers took defensive lineman Karl Brooks out of Bowling Green and then kicker Anders Carlson out of Auburn. In the 7th round, they took cornerback Carrington Valentine from Kentucky, running back Nichols from Central Michigan, safety Anthony Johnson from Iowa State, and wide receiver Grant DuBose from Charlotte. The overarching theme, the Pack took 6 skill position players of the 13 overall picks in this draft and didn't take an offensive lineman for the first time since 2015. All right, let's start off with that first pick of the 6th round. Karl Brooks out of Bowling Green, 6'3", 303 pounds, 27 sacks in 48 college starts, played somewhat of an edge position for the Falcons, but he'll play interior D-line for the green and gold. Kicker Anders Carlson is coming off an ACL tear on his plant leg, but he was productive in college. He's 6'5", and he's the first kicker draftee for the Packers since 2007. That, of course, was all-time leading scorer for the franchise, Mason Crosby. In the 7th round, the Pack went for traits, first adding cornerback Carrington Valentine from Kentucky, 5'11", 192 pounds. Here's those things that stick out, though. It's the pass breakups. He had 11 pass breakups last year, a 39-inch vertical, a 10-4 broad jump. Nichols out of Central Michigan was the FBS's leading rusher in 2021, and he's a thumper, 5'11", 220 pounds. Safety Anthony Johnson fills a need. He's from Iowa State, 5'11", 205 pounds, and he started a school record number of games, actually converting to safety for the first time this past year after playing corner his entire career before then for Matt Campbell's squad. And wide receiver Grant DuBose rounds out the draft class with the 3rd wide receiver taken, 2nd year in a row that Brian Gutekunst has taken 3 wide receivers in the draft. He's originally a Division II transfer, ended up going to Charlotte, and he has got a great change of direction, caught 125 passes in the past 2 seasons. So 13 draft picks are in the boat, and of course, we'll have all that coverage tonight on Local 5 Sports at 10. For now, at Lambeau Field, Matt Reynoldson, Local 5 Sports.